Hi, my name is Tony Beys, and I have a confession to make. Those who know me know that I have loved MFB for a very long time. This spans way back to 2012 when Beyblade was the go to for me. With my friends, that was the hobby that we were most interested in. We used to collect almost every Bey that used to come out, even though it meant running through and burning down our pocket money. What it meant was that we were way too hooked onto this, keeping in mind nostalgia, as well as other factors that come into play. That is, of course, as a kid, you need some playtime. And that comes into the play where you are someone who's growing up with around, let's say, 5 years of playing Beyblade. And when it comes down to this, I do like plastics. I like Bronzo V. That's one of the best design Beyblades for me. But at the end of the day, I am stuck with this very interesting conundrum where I always found myself going back to MFB. So if you could say, I want to remove a spread of my collection, most of it used to be MFB. I did not bother with plastics or even HMS for that matter. And it was straight up MFB. I started with midfakes and then I moved to collecting originals. And then, of course, I came across interesting amount of people, yeah, a good community of people in India who wanted to collect MFB. Right. And it went on for a while. I was like, okay, cool. These are mid fakes, these are original, these are remakes. This is a Hasbro exclusive. I learned a lot. But then something happened. I started hosting and attending tournaments. What it meant was simply this: there were only a few bays, a few competitive combos where you can go out there and really get the best out of it. Anything else, and you'll have a hard time winning any tournaments. Let's say a very common scenario where you have, let's say, Dio Uranus on Bering Drive versus, let's say, Killer King Dragoon on BD145 RDF. We all know where that is going. In an MFP stadium, that is exactly where we're going to end up, where basically it's going to be Killer King Dragoon taking the win on that half turn or a single spin. That's the way it has been for a very long time. It's either a win or a draw, and that takes a lot of time. It's 2 minutes to complete that match minimum, and it gets boring. You can start the match, go out there, grab a beer, start drinking it, come back, and that match will still be going on. On the contrary, we have Beyblade X. When Beyblade X released, I was a bit skeptical because of the gimmick and the height of the Beyblades. I was not sold entirely on the aspect of it. But the first time I got to try it was because of World Hobby Shop, who was kind enough to bring it to one of our MFB tournaments. He brought with him a Beyblade X Stadium, as well as a few bays that we could try out, along with some launches. What we had here was something incredible. Beyblade X compared to MFB felt more primal, more I wouldn't say it was unrealistic, it was more along the lines of being unpredictable. And in terms of what we have known about MFB's mechanics, Beyblade X was something off the rails, and no pun intended. But yes, it took some time for it to pick up. I myself had some time before I decided, yes, I'm going to make my first purchase. For those who don't know, my first purchase was Phoenix Wing, which I got because you're getting a string launcher, you're getting a good amount of parts, and that was that. But as someone who has loved MLB for a very long time, given the nostalgia, given the characters associated with it, given the anime as well, I really thought I would still love MLB more. But years where it gets sour for Metal Fusion, Metal Fight, and even Zero G for that matter, is because Beyblade X turned out to be much better. First of all was parts availability. Everyone could afford it. Everyone could get it. There were resellers from which you could buy stuff. Secondly, it was and is still competitive to an extent. There are at least 12 combos who can go out there and consistently win across. Of course, it's not as limited as MFB, but you can still do good with your deck format. And this is what it'll come to. The deck format really brings out the best out of Beyblade X because your composition really affects how well you can place. If you go with risky combos, you're going to end up in a place where you won't have the right sort of mentality to win. And if you play too safe, you can risk going in overtime, that is more than 3 matches. And then you kind of risk those burst finishes, which are quite unfortunate but cannot be helped. Fourthly, what I liked about it is it maintained the aesthetics of previous generations and was still able to get the best out of fans who want to play Beyblade consistently. Fifth, and here's the most interesting thing, I do not like the anime at all for Beyblade X. I understand it's not cater towards me. It is not, I'm not the target audience. But still, I could not connect myself to any of the characters, any of the storyline. Season 1, the last 2 episodes were amazing. Those were some of the best I have seen in Beyblade itself. But it was not necessary. You could just go take your Beyblade Stadium, the X Stadium, and a few bays to any cafe randomly, and people will get interested. They will ask, "Okay, what are you doing? What is this? Oh, is this Beyblade? But this is not what I have seen." So you explain to them what Beyblade X is, how it works, and then they're interested. Because even as a beginner, if you can launch hard enough, there's still the possibility that you can compete with everyone else. Compared to that, if you take MFB, where you could be going up against, let's say, a Killer Ken Dragon BD145 IDF with, let's say, a Storm Capricorn, you have no chance. Of course, again, Storm Capricorn is not the best one, obviously. Even if you go with, let's say, a decent combo, but you don't have the money to buy parts, it still won't make a difference. You are not going to win. There is no luck factor involved. There's no randomness. There's no excitement that comes with X. We have hosted Beyblade X tournaments in Mumbai for a very long time. And luckily, one of the best things has been there has no one who has been consistently winning it time and time and time again. There's always, almost always been a new winner. And it makes sense because that's the randomness of the bay. The only time I would say someone went two in a row was when they had Cobra Dragon with Elevate and others did not, which was a massive advantage to an extent. But apart from that, Beyblade X has been much clearer in terms of being the option for being series where you can go out there and play with your friends or even random people, make new friends, get into a community and have fun. And at the end of the day, that's the point of it. So this is Tony Bays. If you like content around Beyblade and want to know my thoughts on what I think about Beyblade X and previous generations, then do subscribe and I'll see you in the future video. See ya.